A king sits at a bare table, gaunt past recognition, and stares at his own hand like it's meat on a bone. This is Erysichthon of Thessaly, and he's about to eat himself alive. It started with a tree, a sacred oak in Demeter's grove, the kind of man doesn't touch unless he wants the goddess of grain to remember his name forever. Erysichthon cut it down anyway. The nymph living inside it fell screaming, and Demeter, who controls every harvest, every bite of bread a mortal will ever taste, decided the king would starve while drowning in food. But starvation isn't what kills him. It's what hunger does when it turns inward, when the only thing left to devour is yourself. The oak stands 3 men wide at the base, old enough that its roots run deeper than the city's walls. Erysichthon walks into Demeter's grove with an axe and 20 slaves trailing behind him. He doesn't pray first, doesn't leave an offering, doesn't even pause at the threshold where priestesses tend the shrine. The tree is in his way. He wants the space for a banquet hall, stone and gilt, where he can feed his appetites in front of witnesses. The first blow cracks the bark. Blood runs from the wound, not sap, blood, dark and warm, because the dryad nymph living in the hollow has a body, and that body is dying as the wood splits. Her screams come from inside the trunk, high and thin, the sound of a woman drowning in sawdust and her own name. The slaves keep swinging. Erysichthon watches. He doesn't flinch. When the tree falls, it takes an hour to drag it out, and the screaming stops before they reach the gate. That night, a woman arrives at his hall. No one sees her cross the threshold. She stands at the foot of his bed while he sleeps, veiled, wordless, smelling of grain rotting in the field. She bends close to his ear and whispers one sentence into the dark. Just one. Then she's gone, and Erysichthon wakes gasping, his throat already burning, his belly already hollow. It's a hunger that doesn't come from the body. It doesn't ask for bread or meat or wine. It asks for everything, and the asking never stops. By dawn, he's consumed the morning's provisions. By afternoon, he's calling for more. The cooks bring platters and he strips them bare, and still his hand reaches across the table, fingers shaking, mouth opening for the next bite. His wife watches from the doorway. She's seen men eat. This isn't eating. This is a void wearing a man's mouth, trying to swallow the world. Days collapse into hunger. The royal stores, grain enough to feed the household through winter, go in 4 days. He eats the stores meant for the palace guard, the garrison, the grain tithes owed to the neighboring cities. His servants bring cattle from the pasture, and he consumes them raw if the cooking takes too long. At night he dreams of feasts he's already eaten, and wakes clawing at his own belly, certain there's still room inside, certain the next bite will finally satisfy. It doesn't. His cheeks hollow, his skin stretches. The hunger doesn't diminish, it clarifies. He's not searching for food anymore. He's searching for the moment when eating will stop hurting. It never comes. When the granaries are bare, he sells the palace furniture, the tapestries, his armor piece by piece, the horse he rode into battle at Corinth. Each sale buys another feast. Each feast ends in the same clawing desperation. His wife is gone. His children stopped looking at him weeks ago. The merchants grow thin themselves, following him from town to town, watching their prices multiply as his wealth evaporates. There's nothing left to sell except himself. Erysichthon walks into a merchant's house on a gray morning and offers his labor. The merchant is skeptical. The king is gaunt, trembling, half-mad, but Erysichthon's hands are still strong, and strong hands can work the fields. He strips off what's left of his finery and takes a place among the other slaves. The work is brutal and simple. Haul stones, dig ditches, break ground for the new season. At dusk, the merchant feeds them thin gruel and hard bread. Erysichthon eats it. Then he eats the portion of the man beside him. Then he's clawing through the kitchen stores, and the merchant, understanding finally what he's bought, throws him out with the day's wages in coins. Enough for one more meal. One more meal that won't be enough. In a field at the edge of the merchant's land, Erysichthon sits alone and understands the truth. The hunger isn't in his belly. It's in him, in the very substance of what he is. Every external feast was only ever proof of that. The food passes through and leaves nothing behind, because the hunger lives in the gap, in the hollow, at the center of everything he was. A king, a man who could take whatever he wanted, a creature that didn't know the difference between appetite and identity. He looks at his own arm, the muscle gone to cord, the veins mapping across skin like roots. He's never eaten himself before. He doesn't know if it will work. He bites down on the heel of his hand. The pain is bright and immediate. The blood is warm and real. He tears a piece away and swallows it. For half a breath, the hunger quiets. Just half a breath. Then it screams louder than before, and he understands. The hunger will never stop. It will only grow. The more he feeds it, the more it devours, and now it's devouring the only thing left in reach. What happens next has no mercy in it. Erysichthon tears chunks from his own leg, his shoulder, the soft inside of his arm. The hunger doesn't diminish, it accelerates. Each piece consumed feeds the next gnawing, a cycle that spirals inward. He's become a man eating a man, the predator and prey locked in the same failing body. There's no food left in the world except himself. No external thing will ever satisfy. The curse didn't give him hunger, it made him hunger itself, made his own appetite the only thing his flesh could feed. He lies in the field at dawn, what's left of him scattered in the dirt. His hand, the one he was staring at in his own hall, trying not to see it as meat, finally doesn't move anymore. The hunger dies when the king does, but not because it's satisfied. It dies because there's nothing left to consume. In his final moment of sight, Erysichthon sees the oak grove in the distance, the trees still standing, untouched, watched over by priestesses who remember what he did. He tried to take what wasn't his to take. Demeter didn't punish him with starvation. That would have been mercy. She punished him by making him the instrument of his own ruination, by teaching him that some hungers can only be satisfied by consuming what they love most. And the only thing left to love, in the end, is yourself. The gods don't take away from the greedy. They give them exactly what they asked for, and let them discover what it costs to receive. The sacred groves still stand. Their priestesses still watch. And somewhere, another king is eyeing another tree, thinking he won't be the one who pays. A king swallows his newborn child whole, not in madness, in terror. Kronos has learned that one of his own will overthrow him, cast him into the pit beneath the world, and he will not let it happen. So each child born to him dies the moment it draws breath, swallowed before it can cry out. His wife Re has watched this 5 times now. When the 6th child comes, she wraps a stone in cloth and places it in his arms instead. Kronos doesn't hesitate. He gulps it down like all the rest. But the child, the one meant to be his doom, is already hidden away in a cave on Crete, alive and growing stronger. And Kronos has no idea he just swallowed the very thing he was trying to prevent. Re arrives at the palace before dawn, her belly heavy with the 6th child. She has learned not to look at Kronos after a birth, learned not to watch his face when he returns from the chamber where he does what he does. But this time, he finds her in the corridor and pulls her close. His breath smells like iron. He tells her what the oracle said. One of his children will cast him down, will drag him screaming into the pit beneath the world, will rule in his place. He says this as though it is already fact, as though the words themselves have made it true. Then he says he will not let it happen. Not one child, will grow old enough to threaten him. Not one will draw a second breath. She feels the stone in his stomach pressed against her own swollen belly, and she understands he has already swallowed 4 others. The 5th was born this morning. When the labor comes, Re does not call for midwives. She climbs to a cave on Crete, 9 days' journey through snow and scrub, and there, alone, she bears the child. The boy is strong, his lungs clear. She wraps him in swaddling cloth and leaves him with the nymphs who tend the sacred places, with the goat Amalthea, whose milk runs golden and thick. Then she wraps a stone in the cloth her son wore. She wraps it tight. She walks back to the palace. Kronos sits on his throne waiting, and when she places the bundle in his arms, she does not flinch. The stone is heavy. His jaws work quickly, the way they always do. He swallows it without chewing. He tells her it is done. She nods and leaves him there, his chest heaving, and she thinks, the thing you feared most just went down your throat. In the cave, the child grows in silence. The nymphs call him by no name. Names are dangerous. Names can be spoken aloud. Names can reach the wrong ears. They feed him on honey and the milk of Amalthea, and the boy grows tall and strong without son. He does not know his father. He does not know he has siblings, that 5 of them sit in the dark of Kronos' belly, still alive in the only way the swallowed can be, conscious, undigested, trapped. He does not know his own name. The cave becomes the whole world. Stone walls, the sound of water, the warmth of the goat's flank at night. He grows into manhood, knowing nothing of the prophecy, nothing of the king who waits in fear for the son he thinks he devoured. He thinks he is ordinary. He is the opposite. A visitor comes to the cave, an old man, a titan of the first age who remembers when Kronos was not yet king. He looks at the boy grown to manhood, and he speaks. He says, "Your name is Zeus. Your father is Kronos, the king who swallows his children whole. Your mother is Re, who risked the pit itself to save you. 5 of your siblings are still trapped in his belly, their hearts beating in the dark, waiting for someone to free them. You are that someone." The boy, Zeus, feels the knowledge hit him like a wave. It is the first time he has heard his own name said aloud. The old man leaves him there in the cave, with everything changed. Zeus sits in the dark and understands that every moment he has lived in ignorance was a moment his father lived in terror. The prophecy is real, and now he knows what he has to do. Zeus descends from the mountain. He finds his father in the throne room, and he does not announce himself. He moves fast. He is young. He is hungry. He has spent his whole life underground, and now the world is finally small enough. In some accounts, he uses cunning, forces a potion down Kronos' throat that makes the king heave and vomit. In others, he tears open the throat himself. The details vary, but the result is always the same. What Kronos swallowed comes back up. First, the stone, heavy and white, crashes onto the floor of the throne room. Then Hestia emerges, gasping. Then Demeter, her eyes wide. Hera claws her way out of the darkness that held her. Hades comes up, gasping for air he has never tasted. Poseidon, the last, dripping with the acids of his father's belly, steps onto the marble floor. 5 of them alive, 5 of them free, and Kronos on his knees, broken. Zeus does not kill his father yet. He rallies the siblings, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, and he goes to war. Some of the Titans join him. They have grown tired of Kronos' tyranny, tired of fear, and they see in Zeus something they have been waiting for. Others stand with the old king. The war lasts 10 years, and it tears the world open. Mountains crumble, the sky itself splits. But Kronos, for all his strength, cannot match a god who has grown in secret, a god with 5 siblings at his back and nothing to lose. The final blow comes in a single combat. Zeus raises his thunderbolt, an instrument he did not know he could make, that the Cyclopes gave him because he freed them and Kronos falls. The king is not killed. Instead, he is cast down through the depths of the world, into Tartarus, the pit beneath the pit, where he will never see the sky again. His reign is finished. Zeus takes the throne. The world is new. The age of Titans ends, and the age of gods begins. And for a moment, everything is clean. But the oracle did not stop speaking when Kronos died. It whispered the same words to Zeus. One of your children will overthrow you, will cast you into the dark, will rule in your place. Zeus, king now, begins to listen. He thinks of his father's terror, and he understands something Kronos never did. The fear becomes the thing you fear. The cycle is not broken. It has only changed names.
A musician's song stopped a serpent mid-strike. The venom never reached her skin. But Orpheus didn't save Eurydice that day. He only delayed her death by seconds. She fell anyway, and he followed her into the darkness beneath the earth, carrying nothing but a lyre and a voice that had never failed him before. Even the dead stopped to listen. Even the king of the Underworld wept. And Hades made him an offer no mortal had ever received. Take her back. One condition. Don't look back. But as Orpheus climbed toward daylight, doubt crept in. Was she really behind him? And that's when love became his worst enemy. Orpheus kneels in the grass where Eurydice fell. Her skin is already cooling. The serpent's fangs had pierced her ankle, 2 small punctures, almost delicate, but the venom works fast. She's been dead for minutes. His songs could move stones, could calm wild beasts, could make the gods themselves pause mid-breath. But they cannot undo this. They cannot call back a soul already crossing the threshold. He holds her hand and screams into the empty air. Nothing answers. The world has grown quiet in a way his music never can fill. A shadow separates itself from the other shadows. Hermes appears, the god who guides souls downward, who stands at the border between the living and the dead. His face is neither kind nor cruel. He tells Orpheus there is a way. One way only. The dead do not return. The law is absolute. Hades himself cannot break it. But Hades can bend it. If Orpheus descends into the underworld and sings, if he can move the Lord of the Dead as he moves mortals, Hades might grant him passage back. He might let Eurydice walk behind him to daylight. The word might hangs in the air like poison. Hermes adds the rest. There will be a condition. One you must obey perfectly, or she stays below forever. Orpheus doesn't ask what it is. He takes the lyre and walks toward the abyss. The path downward is narrow and dark. Orpheus sings as he walks. Not a song of hope, a song of loss. His voice moves through caverns where no living thing should travel. And the dead listen. Shades pause in their wandering. Spirits that have forgotten their own names stop to hear him. Even the Furies, the 3 sisters who punish the guilty, lower their whips. They know what he is singing about. They know grief. The rocks themselves seem to soften, as if the earth is moved by his despair. When he reaches the throne room of Hades, the king of the dead sits motionless. Beside him is Persephone, who spent half her year in this darkness and knows loss in ways that cut deeper than most gods. She leans forward. She sees herself in him. Orpheus sings to Hades. He sings about the day he met Eurydice, about the way her laugh sounded like water running over stones. He sings about the serpent, about the seconds between life and death, about holding someone as they slip away. His voice doesn't beg. It simply tells the truth with such perfect clarity that the truth becomes unbearable. Hades has ruled the dead for eons. He has heard countless pleas. He has never broken his law. But as Orpheus reaches the final notes, the king of the dead is weeping. Black tears fall from his eyes onto the stone floor. Persephone reaches over and touches his hand. Hades looks at the mortal musician and speaks. You may take her back. You may lead her to the upper world. But you must not turn to look at her. Not once. Not until you both breathe air. If you do, she returns here and you lose her forever. They begin the ascent. Orpheus leads. Behind him, he can hear Eurydice's footsteps on the stone. Her breath, the rustle of her dress. But he doesn't turn. The rule is absolute. The darkness around them lightens gradually. He can see shapes now, the outlines of passages, the curve of the tunnel walls. His heart pounds. Every step carries them closer to daylight, closer to life. But doubt creeps in like cold water. Is she still there? Or is this a trick? Did Hades lie? Could she have fallen behind and he wouldn't know? The silence between her footsteps grows longer. Or does it? He can't tell anymore if he's hearing her or imagining her. They approach the mouth of the underworld. Orpheus can see daylight ahead. Real daylight. The sun. He's almost there. She's almost free. But the doubt has become unbearable. He needs to know she's with him. He needs to see her face. His hand reaches up toward the light. One more step and they'll both be safe. But what if she isn't behind him? What if he emerges alone and she's still trapped below? What if the law consumes her while he breathes free air? He stands at the threshold. Daylight burns ahead. Darkness presses behind. His love and his fear collide into one desperate need. He turns. She is there. Eurydice is right behind him, close enough to touch. Her eyes meet his. For one impossible instant, he sees her whole, alive, present, real. Then the law activates. It's not violent. It's worse. She doesn't scream. She simply stops existing in the world of the living. The light goes out of her eyes. Her hand reaches toward him but slows, as if moving through invisible water. She's being pulled backward, downward, into the darkness. Orpheus lunges for her but catches only air. He hears her voice once, calling his name, and then the gates slam shut. The sound is final. The underworld has reclaimed what it was promised. Orpheus emerges into the upper world alone. The sun is blinding. The air is warm, alive. He stands at the mouth of a cave and screams her name into the empty landscape. No answer comes back. He will spend the rest of his life singing, and people will listen, because his music carries something they have never heard before. Not hope, not joy, not even anger. Pure, articulate loss. The songs will outlive him. They will cross centuries. And in every age, those who hear them will understand. The gods weep at loss too. And sometimes, not even their tears can fix what love has broken. The myth of Orpheus echoes through the ages as a warning. Even perfect love cannot overcome divine law. Even the most beautiful song cannot rewrite fate. Hades wept. Persephone pitied him. The dead stopped to listen. And it was not enough. Because there are rules older than mercy, older than music, older than the gods themselves. In the next story, we'll see what happens when someone tries to cheat death itself, and why the consequences are written in stone.
Tantalus sat at the god's own table. They broke bread with him, shared wine, spoke prophecy into his ear. A mortal man so favored that even Zeus called him friend. Then he murdered his son Pelops, butchered him like a goat, and served the meat to the gods to see if they were truly omniscient. Most of them knew. Most of them refused to eat. But Demeter, half mad with grief over her stolen daughter, reached for a shoulder bone and bit down before she understood what her teeth held. The gods restored the boy to life. They replaced the eaten flesh with ivory. And Tantalus they sent to Tartarus, where he stands in water to his neck, dying of thirst that will never end. Because the only price higher than the price of impiety is the one you pay forever. Tantalus rules Lydia from a throne that smells of cedar and wine. The court knows him as a man the gods favor. They say Zeus himself has sat at his table, that Poseidon has walked his halls. Tantalus believes this is proof of something. He believes it means he has been chosen. But chosen for what? He cannot quite name, and this is where his thinking curdles. He sits alone in his Megaron at night, turning a cup in his hands, and he thinks about omniscience, about whether the gods truly see everything, or whether they simply see what mortals allow them to see. Whether there is a difference. His son Pelops enters the Megaron at dawn, still young, still believing his father's boasts about divine friendship. Tantalus watches him cross the stone floor. He watches the light catch the boy's shoulder, and in that moment, Tantalus understands what question he has been asking all along. If the gods are truly all-knowing, truly omniscient, then nothing he does can be hidden from them. But if he offers them proof, if he places obscenity itself before them and they fail to recognize it, then they are not gods at all. They are only tall men who have learned to lie. Tantalus's hand moves to the hunting knife at his belt. The boy does not see it. The murder happens fast. A blade to the back of the neck, and Pelops falls like a sacrificial animal. Tantalus drags him to the kitchen, to the stone where servants dress game. The body is still warm. He cuts with the precision of a man who has done this 1,000 times to goats and cattle, and this is no different. He tells himself this, and the lie holds barely. He separates the shoulder from the joint. He removes the spine in 3 careful cuts. He wraps the pieces in grape leaves and wild herbs that mask the smell of what they are. By the time his cooks arrive, the feast is half prepared. By evening, the gods will arrive hungry and unsuspecting. Zeus arrives first, his beard braided with gold, Poseidon at his shoulder like a shadow made solid. Athena comes veiled. Others follow, Hephaestus, Apollo, Hestia. They recline on cushions of purple cloth. They accept wine. They smell the herbs on the meat, and their faces show pleasure, nothing more. Tantalus stands at the edge of the table, watching them eat. Each bite is a question he is asking. Each swallow is an answer he is waiting for. The gods talk among themselves. They praise the wine. They make prophecies about coming harvests. They do not seem to notice anything amiss. Demeter arrives late. She has been searching, always searching, for her daughter in the dark places beneath the earth, and the search has hollowed her. Her grief is a living thing that follows her into the Megaron. She is offered a plate of meat, and without thinking, without even looking, she reaches for the shoulder. She brings it to her mouth. She tastes it. For 3 heartbeats, nothing. Then her body understands what her mind refuses. She spits. She tears the food from her lips. And in that instant, one by one, the other gods recognize what they have been eating. Zeus goes rigid. Poseidon's hand clenches. Athena's eyes flash with a rage, so pure it seems to burn the air itself. The table goes still. They do not punish him yet. First, they restore the boy. Pelops is remade, bones fused, organs restored, the machinery of life wound back into motion. But Demeter's bite has taken the shoulder, and what is eaten cannot be restored from nothing. So Zeus commands his divine smiths, and ivory is shaped to the exact contour of living bone. Pelops wakes gasping, whole and half-white, wearing his father's crime as a permanent shoulder. Tantalus looks at his son and understands, finally, what omniscience means. They knew. They have always known. His test has answered itself. The gods do see everything, and they saw him reach for the knife. Zeus speaks the judgment without anger. This is worse than anger. He speaks it as a man states a law of nature. Tantalus will go to Tartarus, to the deepest pit where the light has never reached. He will stand in a pool of black water that rises to his neck. Above his head, a fruit tree will grow, its branches heavy with apples and figs. Whenever he bends to drink, the water will drain away, leaving him gasping in air. Whenever he reaches for the fruit, the branches will lift beyond his grasp. He will be hungry and thirsty forever. He will never die. This is not punishment in the sense that mortals understand it. This is precision. Tantalus wakes in darkness. The stone beneath him is cold. He is standing in water that reaches his collarbone, and he is dying of thirst. His mouth is dust. His throat is rawhide. He bends forward, cups the black water in his palms, and brings it to his lips. The instant his mouth touches it, the water vanishes, not spilled, not drained, gone as if it never existed. He straightens and looks up. Above him, a fig tree hangs heavy with fruit. He reaches. The branch rises. He reaches again. It rises again. The hunger in him is an animal thing now, and the fruit dangles just beyond his fingertips, and will hang just beyond his fingertips for as long as forever lasts. But Pelops survives. The ivory shoulder does not stop him from living a long life, from ruling, from fathering sons. And those sons will inherit more than their father's throne. They will inherit his grandfather's hunger for power, his grandfather's blindness to consequence, his grandfather's certainty that they can deceive the gods. The house of Atreus will rise and fall on the blood of its own family, and each king will discover what Tantalus learned too late, that there is no test the gods cannot pass, and no crime too secret to escape their sight. The story of Tantalus does not end in Tartarus. It ends in the houses of his descendants, where the curse continues to exact its price.
Medusa was not born a monster. She was made one by the goddess who was supposed to protect her. Ancient sources disagree on how, some say, she dared compare her beauty to Athena's and paid the price for her pride. But the Roman poet Ovid in his Metamorphoses preserved a darker version, one that cuts to the heart of how divine power treats the powerless. In his telling, she was a young priestess, beautiful beyond measure, who served faithfully in Athena's sacred temple. Her golden hair caught sunlight like spun silk. Her eyes held the depth of ocean storms. She had devoted her life and her future to the goddess of wisdom, sworn to her service. And when she was violated in the most sacred space on earth, when everything was torn from her by force, the goddess she served punished her for it. This is Ovid's telling of Medusa's curse, and it raises a question that echoes across every age. What happens to those failed by the very justice meant to protect them? Athena's most sacred temple was a place apart from the mortal world, a space where the goddess of wisdom and war was honored above all others. The women who dedicated themselves to her service gave their lives to it, vows of devotion, of spiritual commitment, of service to something greater than mortal desire. Among these sacred women, Medusa shone brightest. She was one of 3 sisters, daughters of ancient sea deities, but she alone had chosen the path of divine service. While her immortal sisters, Astheno and Uriel, reveled in their monstrous forms and terrible power, Medusa had been born mortal, born beautiful, born to choose her own fate. And she chose devotion. Every dawn found her tending the sacred flame. Every dusk saw her prayers rise like incense to the goddess she served. She wore simple robes that could not diminish her radiance. Her golden hair was braided with olive leaves, Athena's sacred symbol. She moved through the temple like starlight given form, and those who saw her whispered that even the goddess must envy such perfect devotion made flesh. Poseidon, lord of earthquakes and storms, brother to Zeus himself, had noticed the beautiful priestess. Gods notice mortal beauty the way hurricanes notice ships, with devastating inevitability. He ruled the wine-dark seas and the horses that ran wild across Athenian plains. His trident could split mountains or calm the wildest waves. But divine power has appetites that mortal laws cannot restrain. When Poseidon desired something, the earth itself trembled. When he desired someone, neither walls nor vows nor sacred ground could protect them. He had seen Medusa in her temple duties, watched how sunlight loved her golden hair, how her devotion made her beautiful beyond mere flesh. And in the way of gods who have never learned the meaning of the word no, he decided she would be his. It mattered nothing that she served his niece. It mattered nothing that she had taken sacred vows. It mattered nothing that the temple where she served was forbidden to such acts. Gods take what they want. The only question was when. It happened on a day when storm clouds gathered over Athens like divine wrath. The other priestesses had fled to the lower chambers when lightning began to crack the sky. But Medusa remained at her post, tending the sacred flame that must never be allowed to die. She knelt before Athena's statue, her prayers rising with the smoke, her faith unshakable even as thunder rolled overhead. She did not see the sea god enter. She did not hear his footsteps on sacred marble. She only knew when powerful hands seized her, when the scent of salt and storm filled the holy air, when her screams echoed off temple walls that had known only hymns and whispered prayers. There in the most sacred space on earth, before the eyes of Athena's statue, Poseidon took what was not his to take. He violated a priestess sworn to divine service. He defiled the temple that was meant to be pure. And when his divine appetite was sated, when the storm clouds cleared and the god of the seas returned to his watery realm, Medusa lay broken on the marble floor where she had prayed every day of her adult life. The sacred flame still burned. The goddess's statue still watched with stone eyes. And nothing would ever be the same. When Athena returned to her temple, she found her sacred space defiled. The smell of the sea still lingered in air that should have held only incense. Her priestess knelt in torn robes before the altar, weeping tears that fell like rain on marble floors. Any mortal would have seen a victim in need of justice. Any mortal would have demanded punishment for the perpetrator. But Athena was not mortal, and divine logic follows different laws. She saw pollution where mortals would see suffering. She saw shame where mortals would see innocence destroyed. The goddess of wisdom, she who sprang fully formed from Zeus's head, she who had never known the vulnerability of mortal flesh, looked upon her violated priestess and felt only rage, not at her uncle who had committed the crime, but at the victim who had somehow allowed it to happen. In Athena's mind, carved from divine stone that knew no mercy, Medusa had failed in her sacred duty. She had let the temple be defiled. She had broken her vows of purity, regardless of whether the breaking was her choice. The goddess who valued strategy above justice made her decision with the swift brutality that only the truly powerful can afford. Athena's reasoning revealed the brutal mathematics of divine justice. She could not punish Poseidon, he was her uncle, brother to Zeus, equal in power to herself. To challenge him would mean divine war, would upset the careful balance that kept Olympus from tearing itself apart. But someone had to pay for the defilement of her sacred space. Someone had to bear the weight of divine displeasure. And Medusa, broken and mortal and powerless, made the perfect scapegoat. The goddess convinced herself that mercy would be weakness, that sympathy would encourage other violations. She told herself that Medusa must bear some responsibility, must have somehow invited the attention that destroyed her life. In the twisted logic of victim blaming that would echo through every culture for millennia to come, Athena decided that the woman who had suffered most must suffer more. She would transform her priestess into a warning, a deterrent, a monster so terrible that no one would ever again dare approach her sacred spaces with lustful intent. It was not justice. It was not wisdom. It was the age-old solution of the powerful when faced with crimes they dare not properly punish, blame the victim, and call it divine will. Athena raised her hand, and divine power crackled through the temple air like lightning seeking earth. Her voice carried the weight of absolute authority as she pronounced Medusa's fate. The priestess who had served so faithfully would become something no one could bear to look upon. Her golden hair, which had caught sunlight like spun silk, began to writhe and transform. Each strand thickened, darkened, became something alive and venomous. Serpents now crowned her head where once olive leaves had rested. Her eyes, which had held the depth of ocean storms, became weapons that would turn any living thing to stone with a single glance. Her beautiful face became a mask of divine wrath, terrible beyond imagining. Her sisters, Astheno and Uriel, felt the curse's edge touch them too. They became monsters in solidarity, their immortal forms twisted into Gorgon shapes. But they had always been creatures of power and darkness. For Medusa, mortal and faithful, the transformation was a kind of death. She had lost everything: her humanity, her beauty, her ability to connect with any living being. She had become the thing she would be remembered as: Medusa the Gorgon, the monster whose very gaze meant death. And Athena, satisfied that divine justice had been served, turned away from what she had wrought. What emerged from that divine curse was not just a monster, but a tragedy given form. Medusa had become a creature that embodied the ultimate isolation. She could never again look upon another living being without destroying them. Every glance became a death sentence. Every moment of loneliness stretched into eternity. She fled to the edges of the world, to a cave where no mortal would stumble upon her accidentally. There, surrounded by the stone statues of those unlucky enough to meet her eyes, travelers, heroes, men who had come seeking glory and found only death, she lived in exile from everything she had once loved. The serpents that writhed where her hair had been whispered constantly, a chorus of divine punishment that never let her forget what she had lost. She could not see her own reflection without turning the mirror to stone. She could not weep without her tears becoming venom. She had become the perfect victim of divine injustice, punished for her own suffering, made monstrous for the crime committed against her, transformed into a cautionary tale that warned women everywhere what happened to those who somehow allowed themselves to be violated. And in her cave of stone statues and serpentine whispers, Medusa waited for the hero who would finally end her cursed existence. Perseus came to her cave not for glory, but out of desperation. A tyrant named Polydex had demanded the impossible, the head of the Gorgon, as a pretext to claim his mother. This was not a quest Perseus chose. It was an ultimatum he could not refuse. He wore Hermes' winged sandals and carried Hades' cap of invisibility. Athena herself had given him a polished shield that would let him see Medusa's reflection without meeting her deadly gaze. The same goddess who had cursed the priestess now armed her killer. Perseus crept through the cave where Medusa's sisters slept, their immortal forms terrible but not deadly to look upon. But Medusa, mortal still despite her monstrous transformation, could be killed. She sensed his approach through the whispers of her serpent hair. She knew what was coming. Perhaps after centuries of isolation and divine punishment for a crime she had never committed, she welcomed it. As Perseus raised his sword, guided by her reflection in Athena's shield, Medusa may have felt something she had not experienced since her transformation began: relief. The blade fell. The monster died. And from her spilled blood sprang Pegasus, the winged horse, and Chrysaor, the golden warrior, children of the god who had destroyed her life, born only in the moment of her death. Even in her final breath, Medusa's suffering served the purposes of the gods who had betrayed her. Medusa's head, even severed, retained its deadly power. Perseus carried it as a weapon, turning enemies to stone with the gaze of the woman he had killed. Eventually he gave it to Athena, who placed it upon her aegis, her shield of divine protection. The face of the goddess's violated priestess became a symbol of the goddess's power, the ultimate irony in a story built from injustices. For thousands of years, Medusa's image would be carved on temple walls, painted on pottery, worn as jewelry and apotropaic symbols. But the stories that survived told only of the monster, never of the priestess. They remembered the snake-haired Gorgon who turned men to stone, but forgot the faithful young woman who had been raped in a sacred space and punished for her own violation. They celebrated the hero who killed her, but ignored the divine crime that created her. Medusa became the perfect example of how history is written, by the victors, by the powerful, by those who benefit from forgetting inconvenient truths. Her real story disappeared beneath layers of heroic myth and divine propaganda, leaving only the image of a monster that had never truly existed. Yet in that image, for those who knew how to look, the truth remained, a reminder of what happens when the powerful refuse to acknowledge their crimes and choose, instead, to punish their victims. Today, when we speak of victim blaming, when we see survivors punished for their own suffering, when we watch the powerful escape consequences while the powerless bear the weight of divine displeasure, we are watching Medusa's story play out again and again. Her curse was not unique. It was archetypal. The priestess who became a monster because a god could not control his appetites, and a goddess could not admit her own failures of justice. This is why her story matters. This is why the truth behind the myth must be told. Medusa was not born a monster. She was made one by the same forces that continue to make monsters of survivors today, by power that refuses accountability, by justice that protects the wrong people, by societies that find it easier to blame victims than challenge perpetrators. Her serpent hair and deadly gaze were not punishments for evil, but symptoms of a system that had failed her completely. And in every age since, in every culture that remembers her name, Medusa's true story whispers the same warning: beware of any justice that punishes the victim and protects the powerful. For in such systems, we are all one divine whim away from becoming monsters ourselves. In the deepest halls of Hades, where shadows dance with the souls of the dead, a throne of obsidian gleams cold and absolute. Upon it sits not the lord of the underworld, but his queen, Persephone, daughter of Demeter, wielder of life and death. Her eyes burn with fury as ancient as the earth itself. Before her, chained in adamantine bonds that even gods cannot break, kneel two mortals who dared the unthinkable. They tried to steal her from her throne, to claim the queen of the dead as a prize. Their names are Theseus and Pirithous, heroes of legend, but here they are nothing but fools who forgot that some powers demand absolute respect. The world above knows Persephone as the stolen maiden, the innocent daughter of harvest who was swept away to become bride to Death himself. They sing of her mother's grief, of the earth turning barren in mourning. But those tales tell only half the truth. In the realm below, Persephone discovered something the upper world never understood: power. Real power. The authority to judge every soul that crossed the threshold between life and death. She learned that mercy and cruelty must be balanced like the scales of justice, that sometimes the greatest kindness is the harshest judgment. The crown of the underworld did not diminish her, it revealed what she had always been destined to become. The underworld operates by laws older than Zeus's reign, more fundamental than the Titan's rule. These are not mortal laws that bend to wealth or influence, but cosmic principles that maintain the boundary between existence and void. Every soul must face judgment. Every debt must be paid. Every attempt to cheat death demands a reckoning. Hades may be lord of the realm, but Persephone enforces its justice. She determines who may leave and who must stay, who deserves punishment and who earns release. Her word is final, her judgment absolute. Even her husband knows better than to overturn her verdicts. The dead fear her more than they fear him, for she understands both the sweetness of life and the necessity of its ending. When Orpheus descended with his lyre, playing melodies that made even the Furies weep, it was Persephone who heard him first. His music spoke of love that transcended death, of grief so pure it could move stones to tears. Hades was ready to refuse, the laws of death allowed no exceptions. But Persephone listened to the whole song, heard the truth beneath the beauty. She saw that Orpheus's love, though genuine, carried the seed of its own destruction. His faith was already wavering. "Let him try," she whispered to her husband. "But he will fail, and in failing, he will learn why our laws exist." She granted the impossible request not from mercy alone, but from the deeper wisdom that some lessons can only be learned through loss. Theseus and Pirithous arrived in the underworld drunk on their own legend. They had slain monsters, founded kingdoms, bedded goddesses. Surely they could claim whatever prize they desired, even the queen of the dead herself. They swaggered into Hades' hall like conquerors, demanding Persephone's hand for Pirithous as casually as they might request wine at a feast. The audacity was breathtaking. They saw her crown and throne as mere ornaments, her divine authority as something to be seized by mortal ambition. Persephone said nothing at first. She simply smiled, the cold smile of winter's first frost. Then she gestured to 2 chairs beside the throne. "Sit," she commanded. "Rest from your long journey. Let us discuss terms." The chairs looked ordinary enough. They were not. The moment they sat, the chairs revealed their true nature. These were the chairs of forgetfulness, forged in the earliest days of the Underworld to hold those who transgressed against death itself. The seats merged with their flesh, becoming part of their bodies. Memory began to fade, first their purpose in coming here, then their heroic deeds, finally their very names. But Persephone ensured they retained just enough awareness to understand their fate. "You came to claim a queen," she said, her voice echoing through the halls like the toll of funeral bells. "Instead, you will learn what it means to be claimed by death itself. Sit here for eternity and contemplate the difference between earning power and stealing it." Their screams echoed through the realm, serving as warning to any who might follow. Years later, Heracles descended on his final labor, tasked with capturing Cerberus. Unlike the foolish heroes before him, Heracles approached with proper respect, acknowledging Persephone's authority before making any requests. When he learned of his friend Theseus's fate, he begged for the hero's release. Persephone studied the son of Zeus carefully. Here was power that recognized greater power, strength that knew when to kneel. "One may be freed," she declared, her words carrying the weight of divine law. "Choose wisely, for this mercy will not be offered twice." Heracles chose Theseus, who had been led astray by his companion's hubris rather than driven by it himself. But Pirithous, the architect of their arrogance, remained. When Heracles tried to free him as well, the earth itself shook in warning. Even Heracles knew better than to test Persephone's judgment further. With each judgment, Persephone's authority grew more absolute. She had shown that love, properly humble, might earn reprieve, as with Orpheus's brief success. She had demonstrated that friendship and heroism could purchase limited mercy, as with Theseus's release. But she had also proven that certain transgressions demanded eternal punishment. Those who sought to diminish her, to treat the Queen of the Dead as a prize to be won rather than a power to be respected, would find no forgiveness. The balance had to be maintained. Death's realm required order, and that order rested on the understanding that some boundaries could never be crossed without consequence. Pirithous learned this truth too late, but his eternal suffering ensured others would remember. When spring returned and Persephone rose to rejoin her mother in the world above, she carried with her the absolute authority of the grave. The flowers bloomed at her touch, but they bloomed with the knowledge of their own mortality. The earth's fertility flowed from her blessing, but it was fertility tempered by the wisdom of endings. She was no longer the innocent maiden who had picked narcissus flowers in the meadow. She was the queen who had faced down heroes, judged the dead, and established the unbreakable laws of her realm. Even Zeus looked upon his daughter differently now, recognizing in her the terrible beauty of justice itself. She had become something new, a goddess who bridged life and death, who brought spring's promise and winter's reckoning in equal measure. In the halls of the Underworld, Pirithous still sits in his chair of eternal binding, a monument to divine justice and mortal folly. New souls arrive daily, each facing the judgment of the queen who learned that true power lies not in being merciful or cruel, but in knowing when each is required. Persephone's wrath is not the hot rage of Ares or the petty spite of Hera. It is the cold, inevitable justice of the natural order itself. Those who respect the boundaries between life and death, who honor the powers that govern both realms, find in her a goddess of renewal and hope. But those who would defy death's authority, who mistake her beauty for weakness or her youth for inexperience, discover why even the gods speak her name with reverence. Her wrath is the wrath of the earth itself, patient and nurturing until the moment it becomes final and absolute.